Something isn't right on Coronation Street tonight. The night was calm, too calm for Weatherfield. But behind those familiar cobblestones, danger was hiding in plain sight. David Platt had no idea that his world was about to twist in ways he couldn't imagine. A secret, one dark enough to destroy everything he cared about, was waiting just a heartbeat away from being uncovered. In the quiet hum of Coronation Street, one step, one look, one wrong move could have changed everything. And tonight, David came closer than ever to finding out the truth. The day started like any other on Coronation Street. The air was heavy with gossip, laughter, and the usual buzz from the rover's return. But for Sarah, every sound felt louder than usual. Every voice, every glance made her heart beat faster. She wasn't just carrying guilt. She was carrying a secret that could destroy her family. Her connection with Callum Logan wasn't just dangerous, it was forbidden. Callum wasn't the type to play nice. He was charming, sure. That was how he got to Sarah in the first place. But underneath that smile was trouble. The kind that never walks away quietly. Sarah knew it. She told herself she could handle it, that no one would ever find out. But deep down, she knew it was only a matter of time. David, on the other hand, could sense something wasn't right. He'd lived long enough in Weatherfield to know when the air changed, when someone close was hiding something. Sarah had been acting strange lately, her phone glued to her hand, her eyes darting around whenever he entered the room. He'd asked her a few times what was going on, but she always brushed him off. Just tired, she'd say. Work's been mad. But David didn't buy it. Later that evening, as Sarah sat alone in the Platt living room, her mind raced. She replayed her last conversation with Callum, his words still echoing in her head. If David finds out, it won't just be bad for you, Sarah, it'll be bad for him too. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Outside, the streetlights flickered. The soft rumble of a car engine passed by, and Sarah jumped. Every shadow felt like it was watching her. Every knock at the door sent her pulse racing. The walls of number 8 were closing in, and the secret she tried to hide was starting to choke her, and just as she tried to calm herself, she heard footsteps, slow, familiar, and getting closer. David was home. The moment David's footsteps echoed down the hall, Sarah's heart nearly stopped. She hid her phone beneath a cushion, forcing a shaky smile as he entered. David gave her that look, half concerned, half suspicious. "You okay?" he asked. Sarah nodded too quickly. "Yeah. Just tired," she said, her voice trembling slightly. But David wasn't convinced. He'd seen that look before, the kind that meant someone was lying. Hours later, when David went upstairs, Sarah grabbed her phone again. A message glowed on the screen. "You're quiet tonight." "Missing me already?" It was from Callum. Her stomach twisted. She knew she should block him, end it once and for all, but she couldn't. There was something magnetic about him, dangerous, reckless. He made her feel alive. Even as he pulled her deeper into chaos, Callum had always been a storm in disguise. He promised excitement, whispered sweet words that turned into threats when he didn't get his way. Sarah was caught in his web, torn between fear and desire. Every time she tried to step back, he reminded her of what he knew, of what he could expose. Meanwhile, David's instincts screamed that something was wrong. He started noticing the smallest things: Sarah stepping outside to take calls, deleting messages, glancing nervously whenever her phone buzzed. One evening, he caught her standing by the window, whispering to someone. When she noticed him, she froze. Her words stumbled out. "It's just work, David, I swear." But her eyes told another story. The tension in the house grew thicker with each passing day. Even little Max picked up on it, asking why everyone seemed mad all the time. Sarah brushed it off. But guilt was eating her alive. In the dark corners of Weatherfield. Love and danger often danced together, and Sarah was right in the middle of it. The secret she shared with Callum was a ticking bomb, and David was getting closer to lighting the fuse. One wrong move, one wrong word, and everything could come crashing down. It was late. The kind of night when even the air feels heavy with secrets. Rain tapped gently against the window, and Sarah sat on the sofa, staring at her phone. Callum's name flashed across the screen again. "We need to talk, tonight." Her fingers hovered over the reply. Every part of her screamed no, but her heart whispered just one last time. before she could type back. The sound of the front door unlocking froze her in place. David was home earlier than expected. Panic surged through her. The phone slipped from her hand and landed face down on the carpet. She kicked it under the couch just as David walked in, shaking off his jacket, water dripping from his hair. "Didn't expect you home this early," Sarah said, forcing a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. David glanced around the room, his brow furrowing. "Yeah, plans changed." "What are you doing up?" Her heart pounded. "Couldn't sleep," she muttered. Just then, a faint vibration hummed beneath the couch. Callum calling again. Sarah's eyes widened in terror. David looked toward the sound. "What was that?" he asked, stepping closer. Sarah's mind raced. Probably next door's phone. "You know the walls are thin," she said quickly. But David wasn't buying it. He bent down, scanning under the sofa. The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with dread. Every second stretched into eternity. Sarah clenched her fists, her breathing shallow. If he found that phone, it was over. Everything would come crashing down. And then the doorbell rang. A sharp, jarring sound that sliced through the silence. David straightened up, glancing toward the door. "I'll get it," he said, turning away. Sarah's body trembled as he walked out of the room. She dropped to her knees, yanked the phone out from under the couch, and deleted every message, every call log, every trace of Callum. When David returned, he looked at her curiously. "You're shaking," he said softly. "You sure everything's okay?" Sarah forced a smile, clutching her hands to hide their trembling. "Yeah, just cold." But as David pulled her into a hug, his eyes darted toward the floor, where a glint of light had caught his attention. A reflection from her phone screen, still faintly glowing. He didn't say a word. But in that moment, David knew something wasn't right. The night dragged on, but sleep never came. The air inside number 8 felt heavier than ever, thick with things unsaid. Sarah lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her pulse refusing to settle. Every sound, a creak in the hallway, the rustle of the curtains, made her heart jolt. She could still feel David's arms around her, but instead of comfort, they felt like a trap. Downstairs, David sat alone, silent in the dark. The faint blue glow from his phone screen lit up his face. He wasn't scrolling, he was thinking, replaying every strange moment, every excuse Sarah had made, every lie he'd almost believed. He'd seen that reflection on the floor earlier. He knew it came from her phone, but he said nothing. Not yet. Morning arrived, but the tension didn't fade. Sarah moved through the kitchen like a ghost, pretending everything was fine. David watched her closely, his eyes sharp and unreadable. "You sure you're all right?" he asked again, his tone calm, too calm. Sarah smiled faintly. "Yeah, just tired." The same line. The same lie. As she reached for her bag, her phone buzzed on the counter. Callum's name flashed for a second before she could snatch it up. David's eyes caught it, just long enough to confirm his worst fears. His jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. He wanted to hear the truth from her, not from a screen. Later that day, as Sarah walked out the door, David's mind spiraled. He thought of everything, Callum's history, his threats, his violence. If Sarah was tangled up with him again, she wasn't just risking her heart. She was risking everything. Across town, Callum leaned against his car, smirking as Sarah approached. "He's starting to notice, isn't he?" he said, his voice low and smug. Sarah's face paled. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," Callum whispered, stepping closer. "Secrets like ours never stay buried for long." Back at home, David stood at the window, watching her leave, suspicion burning in his eyes. He didn't know the whole story yet, but he was close. Too close. The storm was coming. And when it hit, it wouldn't just break hearts, it would shatter lives. "On Coronation Street," the narrator whispers as the screen fades to black, "truth always finds a way out, no matter who it destroys."